he gonna come? Any future agendas, George?
Yeah, I have a couple of questions, but
Do you need the county manager here?
no, I could use Phyllis.
Okay.
Next Tuesday, Phyllis, June 9th, it looks like it's kind of open, but we had an exec session at the end of the day. I just wonder why we couldn't have that at the beginning of the day, like at 10 a.m.
I'm guessing it had to do with scheduling, but we can
for
check.
staff. Okay.
I think we were doing something that day to consolidate, George, and I think you're right. It was we were consolidating to the afternoon or to the morning, but this gentleman will know the answer.
Question on executive session on the 9th, why in the afternoon instead of the morning?
On June 9th?
Oh, we're actually still working on that. And what it is we are scheduling, that's kind of falling under the updates on county departments, and that's the attorney's opportunity to give an update. We list it as an executive session at this point, just in case there are issues that the attorney would like to update you on that are part of executive privilege. If not, we won't do that as executive session. So we're having that discussion with John.
So it could be done in the morning.
I just wonder why it's at the end of the
I was
day.
looking at that. The schedule's kind of wide open, and I would rather come in the morning and be out earlier in the afternoon. And
Yeah, there's lots of opportunities for consolidation. That the one thing that right now we probably wouldn't want to move is the High Valley Farms
Yeah.
discussion, but we could certainly move that to the morning if that's the board's preference. We don't have a whole lot on that agenda next week.
okay, and then again, it's probably just depending on staff timing. Based on my discussion last week on special events, if we were going to have a work session in the near future regarding special events.
Yeah, and I wanted to talk to you guys a little bit more about that so we knew
Okay.
kind of what the prep might be for that in terms of how we want to structure that discussion. I mean, it's obviously if it's more an opportunity for you guys to visit about what you'd like to see and have us bring back information, we can do that sooner. If there's a lot of data we need to collect on, you know, the history of special events permits issued and those sorts of things, may take a little bit more time for us to prepare. And so I think it'd be good for us to maybe just take 5 minutes or so and just talk about the nature of that discussion, what we want to have come out of it, so that I know how to prepare staff for that.
Do we want that discussion now for it?
Unless John wants a full board.
We could do
Your
it for
discretion.
5 minutes, because we won't have a full board and John here for several weeks.
Yeah, that's true.
Or give us lots of time to prepare.
I mean, for me, it would just be, in terms of historical use, let's say the last 4 or 5 years, where the increase or what the increase has been in terms of usage for special events. So we sort of see a trend line in the types of events and sort of what areas of the county are being utilized for those events and the resources needed. So if it's on a Rio Grande, or if it's on county roads, or if it's wherever. I mean, for me, that would be a good starting point to sort of see what the trend line looks like, and then we could probably project that out in terms of, well, and I know we've had a survey done, a study done a couple of years ago by this fellow Al Breckenridge. In that point in time, people were fairly comfortable in terms of the use of special events. But I know, as Ellen has mentioned, that several caucuses are going to be addressing that in their master plans as well, in terms of being concerned about overuse, certainly during peak times. So that sort of story.
Yeah, one of my key issues, like George says, what are the trends, what are we seeing in the past? And what we might see in the future, but, and the utilization of staff time. Do we really have a staff person in ComDev that is available to address all these issues, or is it a seasonal or year-round, or what? That's kind of my,
So they've seen this before. Don? Okay.
he's,
It's hard for us to concentrate when there's other, particularly me, I get so distracted.
he wanted to know what you were talking about.
Is that clear, John?
Yeah, and so let me get together with staff and figure out how long it'll take to pull the historical information together, and we'll get that scheduled. That's very helpful to know what the expectation is.
And what about having an open space person sort of talk about their resources and how much their resources are being used?
Are we moving back to agendas?
Yeah, I mean,
I
is
just
that it, George?
I just have a question. I know we have the Deer Creek one coming back to us, and we do have the opportunity to move it forward or to continue it, because I know we were going to try and look into, so I guess we'll just wait and see where staff is.
Yeah.
It's scheduled for the 10th.
For the 10th.
Remember, the neighbors had said they wanted to look at this public-private partnership purchase maybe on the property, and I don't know how that issue will be vetted out or if it's even feasible, but I guess staff will come back to us and tell us if we need more time.
Well, I think we can proceed with the acquisition and make arrangements after the acquisition. If somebody wants to contribute $1 million after the acquisition, I don't have a problem with that. I don't think it needs to make the acquisition contingent.
Yeah, so if...
We should find out that.
Yeah, I think where Michael's going, what the decision point would end up being is, once we've acquired the property, we have the opportunity to develop a management plan or dispose of in I think any way that we'd want. I think the request from the neighbors would be some kind of quid pro quo where there's participation.
Well, it was actually a request just from one attorney.
Just from one attorney,
Right.
thank you.
Representing one person.
And I thought it was the possibility of contributing to the purchase of, and if we can go ahead and move forward with the acquisition and then bring, if any purchase opportunity was to come forward, I just didn't know if we needed to have that clarified before we accepted the acquisition.
The thing you've got to be careful of is we have a contract that has dates in it, and
okay.
if we start a negotiation separately on
Could follow.
maybe changing the nature of that deal, we risk losing the property and the price at this point. We may not, but we run that risk.
I'm not against putting it on the agenda and moving it forward or having the discussion to move it forward. I just wanted to know if we needed to keep that in mind. But we can.
Yeah, I think we will keep it in mind, but I think the main thing is to acquire it, and then if the neighbors or some parties want to participate in the purchase price, we can do that. And under what conditions would they want to participate in the purchase price? Unconditional, conditional, what it would be. That would take a long time.
Yeah.
So I don't want to
Well, I forgot about
adjust our
the.
contract.
Yeah. Okay. Then I'm okay. We'll just have to see where the board falls out on the decision. And I didn't really have anything else.
Any other future agendas? Okay then.
There's a Marina Mallory meeting in this note.
We already dealt with that.
Okay.
Are we set? John, are there any other
The
things we should be looking at?
only other, not on future agendas, I think we're ready for the budget supplemental.
Okay.
If you're ready to go there.
The next item is a budget supplemental entitled Part-Time Useful Public Service. Don Bird, you're going to present what part-time useful public service is?
I will. So the budget description is fairly accurate. We originally thought that when Beverly Campbell retired in January,
that we would be able to identify some jail deputies that could take over the program. Beverly did it as part of her supervisory function as a jail officer, but she was free from the normal duties of a jail officer. We had identified 2 people that we thought we could train and take over, and those people didn't get any time to train. The useful public service coordinator is kind of a complex position. She's got to register people and log their hours. There's some.
These are inmates at the...
No, these are people these are citizens that have been sentenced through the court.
So they've gone through the justice system.
Yes, and useful public service is a sentencing alternative option to jail.
Okay.
So it's very valuable. It keeps people out of jail. A lot of people get sentenced to jail and a useful public service component, but it's a restorative justice concept. It really works very well here. It requires a certain amount of monitoring and accountability, as people can be arrested for not complying, for failure to complete it. So there's got to be a certain amount of accuracy and accountability. And to that end, we were unable to free up any officers to train them to monitor the program. So what we are proposing is that we retain Beverly for another 6 months, and in the process she'll write a training manual, and we'll try something else in the winter.
Something else meaning that you will look for someone who will coordinate the program? Is that what you mean?
Well, we've submitted a budget request in the last few years for a public service coordinator position. It hasn't made the cut. In most other counties, almost in all the other counties in the state, the useful public service coordinator is a separate entity. I mean, maybe they're run under the auspices of the sheriff's department, but they're certainly not run out of their jails like we've been doing. This program was started 30 years ago, maybe even longer than that, and it's kind of fallen to the jail during that time because it's a sentencing alternative, but it's gotten so popular that it's sort of gone beyond our ability to manage it with our staff.
So when you say it's gotten popular, you mean it's
From
a useful
the
program?
judicial perspective, it's being used a lot. It used to be just traffic offenses out of county court. Now everybody, district court uses it, county court uses it, and municipal court uses it. It's a very popular sentencing alternative.
Okay, any questions for Don?
No, so Don, do you envision this will be a full-time position?
No, I mean, the one we're going to propose, or?
No, well, down the road.
No, it would be less than full-time. Not really sure what it's going to be, between 20 and 30 hours maybe. It depends on how it falls out HR-wise, but we're not proposing it as a full-time position.
Yeah, I bring that up because it's kind of curious. Maybe there's an opportunity to utilize this person for FTE as an enforcement code officer as well, because we're sort of struggling how to fill that gap. So I just was curious if it was full-time. It's not full-time, so maybe an opportunity to provide.
Yeah, and George, I think you're on the right track, especially because of changes with the Affordable Care Act and such, and how we have to provide coverage. Part-time positions are making less sense now, whether it's a combination of a code enforcement officer or another kind of position. I think we might be trying to work with Don on those types of synergies going forward for a full-time position, because they tend to be more efficient now because of the healthcare costs associated.
Yeah. And so I bring that up, so there's an opportunity hopefully that the Sheriff's Department can coordinate with our needs and see if we can find sort of that right candidate that could fill both shoes or wear both hats.
Pretty different skill sets in those positions. As it
And,
is.
George, we spec'd it out as a 75% FTE, so 3/4 time FTE.
So, John, so we see the jail department having administered this, the courts relying on it. Pickton County doesn't have, you know, where is the nexus of this position and within the county? Is it within the sheriffs? Is it within Health and Human Services? Where does something like this belong?
You know, it is a alternative to jail, and so in counties that are large enough to have community corrections departments, which are separate alternative sentencing kind of programs, typically useful public service would sit there. Sometimes I believe they sit with probation kind of departments. We really don't have one, we don't have an alternative sentencing program in Pickton County, so that's not an option. We really don't have capacity in other parts of the judicial system, and as it is an alternative to jail, I think that's why it's fallen within Don's shop, and I'd anticipate that it will continue to fall there, but we'll certainly look at that with the budget request.
Okay.
I mean, I don't have a good answer other than
Yeah,
that,
yeah.
And funding sources for this position or this program, I know we have to kind of take care of what the courts determine, but the municipal court, the city court, is also using this as part of their terms. So do they pitch in any dollars to help fund a program?
Similar to jails, no.
Okay.
And everybody registers, I mean, so that's part of what this person does. They register somebody, and so a municipal offender that gets sentenced would register the same as everybody else does. And we like to think that the registration cost covers the cost of
Right, there is a fee.
program. It does. We've made reports in the past to commission about the success of the program and the amount of dollars that Pickton County, for instance, saves by having these people work on Pickton County projects, and they work for you know, various other nonprofits throughout the county.
I think it's a great program.
It's a great program.
Yeah.
I mean, it keeps people out of jail and it restores them to the community. It obligates them to the community. That's the whole object of restorative justice. It's a great program, but like I say, it's the methods of accountability are, you know, it's all digital. It's all, I mean, we send out letters and so there's a lot of just clerical work that's involved in it besides interacting with offenders and monitoring workplaces, that kind of thing.
So it sounds like the challenge is an administrative one. Where does he fit? Where does he or she fit within the administrative auspices of the county? So, and how do we keep it permanent? So that's the challenge. So,
I think bringing Bev back to have her help create a program that we can bring back with the budget is probably a great idea.
so are we all in support of this? Yes. Thank you, Don.
Thank you very much.
It comes back to us on a regular meeting?
It'll come back,
As part of
yes,
a
this will come back
supplemental?
as a formal budget resolution.
Great, thanks, Don.
Thank you.
Good to see you.
So this is the time set aside for staff and community partners to formally present community organizational issues that may lead to future board action. So where does that put us?
So we've got a special meeting that's noticed for 1:45. I do have a letter that RAFTA has asked us to sign on to in support of a Tiger grant. We could review that in the meantime and get board direction on that. But I would suggest that since we posted the special meeting for 1:45 on the letter for SG interest, that it'd be appropriate for us to not start before that time.
Okay, and why are we calling it a special meeting?
That was a request of the attorney's office to take formal action in support of the letter
So
for
we passed
SG
a
interest.
resolution, essentially, so we're meeting,
Like an informal resolution, yeah, in support of the letter. Yeah,
So we'll be taking action, not just a nod of head.
So
that's
I'll
my
actually
understanding, yes.
Convene as a board.
So, John, is this the Tiger grant letter?
Yeah, so this is a letter that RAFTA had forwarded on to us, I believe, yesterday. They're looking for support. Of course, the letters need to be in today. I do not have the amount of the grant that they're applying for. I apologize. But they are asking the member jurisdictions to sign on to a letter of support for this application. And so, obviously, since we need to do it today, Michael, we probably change the signature line from Steve
You have an
to
electronic,
you.
Steve.
Oh, or we could do the electronic Steve, yeah.
We've done these before, Tiger grants, many times in the past.
Yeah, it's not unusual. I just, since it was the board that was requested the support, I wanted to be sure that you guys had a chance
To
to
read
see
the
it
letter.
before it went out, yeah.
So did we compose this letter or did RAFTA compose this?
I believe this is primarily composed by RAFTA, Michael.
And they didn't put the amount of the grant here?
I was actually just trying to do a search to see if I could find an email on it, but we don't have the amount.
Well, maybe you could ask RAFTA what the amount is. I mean, I
Yeah.
would like to know
Sure.
what the grant size is and incorporate it in the letter. It would make me look like I know what I'm doing. That would be helpful.
Is that important?
That's
Is it,
important.
okay.
George, are you in support of this?
Yeah, in fact, I just signed one for CORE.
Oh, okay.
And CORE, it's sort of a similar letter, but CORE edited a little bit in terms of talking more about the energy savings, energy efficiency of
Perfect.
this building.
Did they have the amount in their letter?
They did not, and I didn't think it would impact me too much, so I didn't ask for that.
It doesn't impact me, but if Michael wants to look really smart, we could always add a line and then have it stamped for Steve's signature and sent on today.
But I do apologize. I actually was reviewing the letter right before coming down and didn't have time to get the amount, so.
Okay. You don't need to apologize for that, John. So.
We'll
we're all
move
in
it forward
support
with
of
that
this?
inclusion.
And this letter for the public is for the improvement of the Glenwood Maintenance Facility, which is located in Glenwood. And RAFTA is going to take on the role of greater transportation role around Glenwood in the coming year or so because of the bridge construction. So they're hoping to put more people on RAFTA to eliminate traffic, vehicular traffic through town of Glenwood while the bridge is being constructed. So let's go ahead and do that.
All right.
Anything else you can run by? We're so efficient today. We're like,
I
you're
know I'm
running
not
out of
used to
things.
planning for 3 of you versus 5 of you, clearly, so.
Well, I'll bet we can go through our board report.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Michael's already kind of done his.
Board reports, yeah. Unfortunately, I missed my WAPA meeting, and we have an upcoming meeting with the RAFTA board. It's actually a retreat on June 11th. And ACRA had a meeting and a presentation by Alan Fletcher about their upcoming season and the reach and influence of the music associates throughout the world. So that was fascinating. I think that's it.
I'll go.
Please.
Northwest COG had a great meeting in Gibson, was well attended. As I've said, the sheriff, Joey DeSalvo, did a presentation on the marijuana, I don't remember the name of the group, the local community group, Marijuana Council.
The Valley Marijuana Council. Yeah.
He was well received, and he's going to probably go take his show on the road, which was exciting. I'm going to be bringing all the pamphlets and stuff that Joey hands out to the next COG meeting in July when we have our retreat. We also had an economic development district meeting. I brought forward issues of grants for childcare. I have some ideas. I'm going to be talking with the SALT for their idea about childcare and their opportunity to apply for federal economic development grants. It should fit into that category, and it should our facilities. So we might be able to get funding there. So we have some opportunities through Northwest COG's Economic Development District. Senior Council, Steve and I went to the Senior Council Awards Luncheon. It was great fun, great group. I think Steve and I may have talked about it before. Other than that, I have a workforce meeting coming up here soon, and I'm still not quite sure what I'm doing at that table, but I'm working on it.
Workforce, appropriate.
Yes, I'm working on the workforce.
Keep working. George?
Core, we met and we continued as a follow-up from our retreat from last month and working on our strategic plans. That's moving along. The grant cycle for people interested in the Randy Udo Energy grants ended May 1st, and the staff is going through those requests, those grantees, as well as the community committee. And we will see those in July to us. Other than that, there was no Nordic Council meeting, and there was not an Intermountain TPR meeting either.
Okay.
We are good today.
Still get a break.
I know. No, we got
That's
4
it for
minutes.
the board reports. We could stretch it out or just sort of stretch
Open
our legs.
discussion?
I would suggest at this point maybe just taking a few minute break and we can let our folks get set up and
Okay.
call the special meeting at 1:45.
Okay, do we have a presentation, Chris? Are you going to project the letter and maps
Yes.
and pictures of our representatives and foresters?
Some of
Some of
Some of the
those
above.
items will be projected.
Excellent.
Yes.
Okay, so we're going to reconvene at 1:45, which is 3 minutes. call a special meeting for the purposes of considering a letter of support for SG interest in Ursa Resource Oil and Gas Lease Exchange. And is there a motion to go into a special meeting?
So, do we need to do that? So moved.
You can call the special meeting to order as the chair, and then we'll have a
I don't
motion
have
on
to,
the
I don't have to get a resolution, or, I mean, I don't have to get a vote?
No, well, aye. That make you feel better?
Shall we move into a special meeting?
Good idea.
Okay, thank you. The special meeting is convened. Chris, you're going to present the content of this letter?
Yes,
Okay, thank you.
as well as some background, which I think may be helpful. I know that the members of the audience present here in the room today are intimately familiar with this map, most of them. However, for folks who might be watching on the television, I'm going to give a brief overview of what we're looking at here on the screen.
Do you want me to dim the light?
We tried that actually, and
Okay, this way.
this appears to be the best way of doing it.
Chris, just let me ask you a question. We
Yes.
do have many members of the public here. Are you expecting the members of the public to have time for public comment?
Yes, and so I'm going to try to keep my presentation fairly brief.
Okay.
Yes. Thank you, Michael. What we have here, Garfield County, Pitkin County. This is the county line separating Garfield from Pitkin. Mesa County here. And we have Gunnison County down here. Hard to see because of the way these the lights are showing, but there are leases roughly in
And Chris,
block. Yes.
give us, you told, you picked Mesa, Garfield.
Yes.
What portion of the county does this exist in?
So with Mesa to our west and Garfield to our north, we are in the far northwestern corner of Pitkin County.
Okay, thank you.
And this is an area called the Thompson Divide. And the leases, the oil and gas leases that we'll be discussing today are entirely within the White River National Forest. We have a block of leases outlined in blue here that are known as the proposed Lake Ridge unit leases, held by SG Interests, approximately 22,000 acres. In yellow, we have the Wolf Creek Gas Storage Field, which is held and operated by Source Gas, the local gas utility for the valley. SG Interests also has holdings in this gas storage field. They have a sublease from Source Gas that would allow them to potentially develop the Manka Shale, which underlies the storage formation. And then above the storage field is 11,700 acres of leases held by Ursa Resources.
You mean to the north of?
Yes, above, to the north of the gas storage field, yes. These leases, as I said, are all on the White River National Forest. They are federal oil and gas leases issued by the Bureau of Land Management. In the case of the blue Lake Ridge leases and the orange Ursa leases, all issued in 2003. The storage field leases were issued much longer ago. They were issued in the 50s and 60s. Lastly, I'll just point out on the map we have in this purplish color the Jerome Park Conservation Easement held by Pitkin County, 4,300 acres. Pitkin County, as well as the community as a whole, has been very, very involved in this controversy surrounding oil and gas leases in the Thompson Divide. And it's been a multifaceted controversy that has involved elements of litigation over the years. It's involved elements of administrative action at both the local and state and federal levels, and then just widespread public involvement in both local public meetings, contacts with elected officials at all levels of government, and numerous federal public meetings. The most recent administrative action we have seen from the federal government is a decision that was released in December of 2014 by the Forest Service that proposes to close this whole area to future oil and gas leasing. The Forest Service's decision will not, however, affect the existing leases that are shown on this map. There is an additional administrative process, this one overseen by the Federal Bureau of Land Management, that is moving along on a separate track that is due to wrap up in 2016, that examines whether or not these leases in blue and these leases in orange ought to be sustained, modified, or canceled. And that federal process overseen by the BLM has resulted from litigation activities championed by Pickens County, Wilderness Workshop, and others that revealed that the leases issued in 2003 were issued illegally in violation of the National Environmental Policy Act. And BLM, upon becoming persuaded of that fact, realized, okay, we're going to go back and reevaluate these leases in the way that we should have done before we actually issued them. So that is a very capsule summary of the activities surrounding the oil and gas leases in the Thompson Divide. There's much more we could say about them, but for purposes of today's discussion, I think that that ought to suffice to introduce the settlement proposal that is being brought before you today. This is a proposal that's being championed by the oil and gas lessees themselves. They have essentially, I think, after confronting the community's opposition to the development of leases in the Thompson Divide, they have determined that it is preferable to seek to develop oil and gas elsewhere. And so they are requesting that communities in this valley and elsewhere on the western slope endorse a proposed lease exchange that will allow them to swap these leases in the Thompson Divide for leases elsewhere in western Colorado. And specifically, URSA has proposed swapping its leases in the Divide, which are here, for leases in Rio Blanco County. The Rio Blanco County Commissioners were presented with that proposal and supported it. SG has proposed swapping its leases here, including both the Lake Ridge leases as well as the gas storage field leases, for leases that would be issued in Mesa, Delta, and a small portion of Gunnison County. And all three county commissions in those three counties have now endorsed this proposal as well. So we are, of the counties involved, and by the way, I should say, Garfield County has also endorsed this lease exchange proposal. So all of the affected counties other than Pickens County have now endorsed the proposal. And Pickens County has been very clear from the beginning of this controversy and the beginning of settlement discussions that suggested perhaps a lease exchange would be an idea worth exploring. Pickens County has been very clear from the beginning that we didn't want to have our concerns over oil and gas leasing in our county result in the leases being sent to another community that didn't want the oil and gas leasing to land in their lap. So with the various counties now having weighed in favor of the proposal, it's ripe for us to consider it. And one thing I will mention at the outset is that most of these counties, and in particular Delta and Gunnison, have been very clear that they view the proposal that you're being asked to support today as the beginning of a process. It's the beginning of a conversation which will soon lead, we expect, to the production of draft legislative language that people will then have an opportunity to weigh in on and revise and work towards a consensus solution. So we're at the beginning of a process with this requested letter of support, not at the end of the process, and I just want that to be clear. So why don't I briefly throw the proposed letter up on the Elmo.
Chris, let me ask you, what legislative action is necessary to do this?
Yes, excellent question. As you'll see, the draft letter is addressed to both of our United States senators as well as Congressman Tipton, who represents the Western Slope. The lease exchange proposal that SG and URSA have brought forward would require congressional action to succeed. So we would need an act of Congress signed by the President. That obviously is a process that can take time and be very uncertain, but I think the hope is that if the various communities are united behind this concept and the industry is supportive of the concept, that it may have some chance of success. So that is the direction that this would take, and the draft legislative language that I mentioned would be language for consideration by the Congress. And certainly, you know, there are various stages that something has to go through. It has to go through subcommittees and then committees, and then it would go to the floor. So lots of different stages in the process, and as I said, this is just the beginning.
Chris, let me also ask you, if our assertion is that these leases, or at least some of these leases, were issued illegally, then how do we affect a trade for illegally issued leases for leases that are legal? What's that mechanism?
I think that that's a question that the Congress will have to consider as it weighs what to do with this proposal. We have very clearly taken the position that the leases were issued illegally, and we believe that they ought to be canceled. Industry takes a contrary view. They don't believe the leases were issued illegally. They believe that they are valid, and ultimately, if there's not a resolution of this nature, it seems relatively likely that that controversy over whether or not the leases were issued legally or not would end up in a court for ultimate resolution. The first step that would precede any judicial action would be a decision by the Bureau of Land Management in its NEPA process that I described earlier, where they're examining the existing leases. But I think that that's an excellent question. I'm sure that it's one the Congress will want to consider as it weighs this.
But in no way are we changing our position on the illegal issue of these leases. We're not recognizing these leases have any standing as far as we're concerned.
No. I think we're being asked to consider and support a settlement proposal that would resolve the controversy, and that's all. So, yeah. The letter, and I'm not going to read it because, as I said, I want people here to be able to speak, but the letter in general, it summarizes some of the high values presented by the Thompson Divide and some of the reasons that Pickens County has spent so much time and energy trying to protect the area. It notes the nature of the proposal that is being presented by the industry, and you'll see here in this paragraph a brief summary of the exchange. And then, importantly, in this paragraph here, we note, and it continues on the next page, we note that, as I said, this is the beginning of a conversation. And we want to be sure that all affected communities have an opportunity to be heard and weigh in on the proposal. And then lastly, we express our appreciation to the industry for coming forward and being interested in talking. It's something that we have been trying to do with the industry for the last several years. We've had a number of conversations with them, with varying degrees of success, but I think this is really the most promising proposal we've seen to date. And so with that, why don't I wrap up my comments, and if the board has questions for me, I'm happy to answer them, or I can turn this seat over to the public.
In the second paragraph, you say we were recently presented with an interesting idea. The word interesting, some people use it as, something they're not actually happy about. I would suggest that you say an innovative idea, or some sort of adjective that's a little more precise than interesting.
And a lot of this letter, I should mention, is copied verbatim from a letter that was sent by Gunnison County. And that was by design. We wanted to, and that language is Gunnison County's language. We have, over the course of the last several years, we have done as much as we can, really, to partner with our fellow jurisdictions and to try to amplify our voices by speaking, in most cases, the same words. Over the course of our interactions with BLM for the last 2 years, for example, we've sent most of our letters jointly with Carbondale and the city of Glenwood Springs, for example. Having said that, I'm fine with changing that word.
Just a suggestion.
I just have just a statement before we open that, being new on the board, of course, like I would hope every member of this community has been following this issue for many years. I've been trying to keep up to speed as much as possible, talking to people, reading articles, talking with Chris. When I first got elected, Chris gave me a Thompson Divide 101 class that was extremely enlightening. And, I really believe that Pickens County's been very consistent and extremely diligent in our pursuit of resolving this matter. And I'm hoping to hear from the public here today, but I think the letter is well written and in a timely manner that we need to move it forward.
George?
I'll wait to have the
Okay.
public speaks.
So members, I see a lot of members of the public, more than we usually get. Would you anyone who would like to speak, please raise your hand. When I call on you, give your name and whatever other pertinent information you might think we need, and we'll proceed from there. It's a very reluctant crew out there.
I know, come on.
I think we'd be much more exuberant about this than. Please raise your hand. Yes, sir, in the blue.
My name's Jason Sewell. I'm the chair of Thompson Divide Coalition, and I just wanted to thank the county commissioners in the county of Pickens County for supporting Chris's efforts and helping move this process forward and getting us to the place that we are. It's been a lot of help, and I don't think we'd be where we are today without the support of Pickens County. So thank you.
So the Thompson Divide wholeheartedly endorses this letter?
I've got comments there. I'll let Zane comment on that.
Okay. Would you like to make your comments now, sir?
Sure. My name is Zane Kessler. I'm the executive director of the Thompson Divide Coalition. As you all know, the coalition has been involved in negotiations with the industry for a small handful of years now in an attempt to try and resolve the long-standing debate over potential development in the Thompson Divide area. George, I know you know this very well. Commissioner Newman has been a champion for this issue in his area of the county, and the commissioners as a whole have, or as a board, have also been a champion for the preservation of pristine public lands in the Thompson Divide. This is a very special area. It's home to some of the state's most sought-after big game management units. It's home to 15 different watersheds that feed the Colorado, the Roaring Fork, the Crystal, and the North Fork of the Gunnison. It's a recreational mecca, and the list goes on and on. Our coalition has done analysis to examine what the benefits of those existing uses on the land are, and independent analysis came out showing $30 million and 300 jobs associated with hunting, ranching, fishing, and recreation in the Thompson Divide. I'm here today to thank you for your support and for your championing of this issue over the years. As our board chair mentioned just now, we would not be here without the Pickens County Commissioners and the staff and the resources that you have devoted to this. I'm also here to tell you that we support the letter as currently drafted. We support the concept of an exchange-based solution, and we recognize that this is the first step in a process that could ultimately lead to the cancellation of problematic leases in the Thompson Divide area. We think that this is also a first step in a dialogue where stakeholders and communities and counties like yourselves should have a say. We we have reviewed the letters from the other counties, and we appreciate their points of view and look forward to the dialogue continuing over the coming weeks and months. As Chris pointed out, this is certain to be, this is the first step, and it's certain to take some time if we are going to see a congressional bill on it. And we look forward to reviewing draft legislation before it is formally introduced as well. So with that, I will conclude by saying I'm joined by not only our board chair, but 4 of the Thompson Divide Coalition's founding members. These are the men and women who rely on this area for their water. They rely on it for their grazing allotments, for their businesses, and ultimately for their livelihoods. And that's why we're here today. That's why we've been here for 3 years, or more, 6 years, fighting this in an effort to protect those people and their livelihoods that ultimately are inseparably tied to this landscape. So thank you for your support. We support the letter as drafted. We look forward to reviewing draft legislation, and please contact me or any of our board members if you have any questions. So thank you.
Thank you, Zane. Any other members of the public wishing to make comment? Yes, in the back here.
Hi, my name is Mike Pritchard. I am with Roaring Fork.
Why don't you come forward, because we have a microphone
Perfect.
up front here.
Hi, Mike Pritchard, Roaring Fork Mountain Bike Association. I also work with them by the International Mountain Bike Association. And I just wanted to express thanks for how much effort has gone into this work over the past years. Pickens County staff has really been paying attention, and the commissioners have, we have the commissioners to thank for that. You know, I'm here to speak for mountain bikers, and the Thompson Divide represents a really special place for people who want to get out and explore and really get far out there away from our developed areas. So if we were to see development in the Thompson Divide in the future, that would really spoil that experience. So it really is critical that we do as best as possible to save this landscape. So I would urge you to support this solution. There might be some issues, but again, it's just the beginning of a process that is a good solution. So thanks so much for considering it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comments? Yes, sir, in the white shirt. Sure.
Well, I think I'm Jock Jacober. I've been with Thompson Divide since the beginning, and I don't know whether I've ever basically been in the room with you all to thank you very much for all of your support when you turned up several years ago with this young fella here. You know, it really was a game changer, and we really, really appreciate that. And I think we're looking towards a solution. Maybe this is part of the solution. Maybe I should say that, you know, these guys are snakes in the grass, and we got to keep the hammer down here when we're doing this exchange. This is the beginning, and so let's make a good exchange for everybody. And you guys have done a great job, and we really appreciate your support on it. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, Joe.
Any other? Yes, sir. Come forward.
My name is Sloan Shoemaker. I'm the Executive Director of Wilderness Workshop, and we're here to help to pile on the thanks to Pickens County. Like Jock, I've been with this effort since the beginning, and watched it go from a hope and a dream and an idea to the horsepower that we've got applied now and attention in DC. And it's really gratifying to see that, to see how the communities come together around this, and to thank you, particularly Chris, for all your incredibly intelligent, diligent, persistent, focused work on this. It's been a pleasure for my staff to interact with Chris, particularly in challenging the legality of those leases. We firmly agree that those leases are illegal. We don't surrender that position at all. Agree with Chris that if we view this in the framework of a settlement, instead of, you know, it would precede a court action. I think that's a great way to think about that. We like the language in the letter and agree with the commissioners that we seek a long-term legislative permanent protection of the area, and would like to see that part of the ongoing dialogue, that, as everyone's mentioned, it's the beginning of the dialogue. And also agree with the language in the letter that this is, it's really important that this is a very inclusive dialogue, that embraces and builds consensus amongst all the affected communities. We certainly we love the idea of finding a solution that gets rid of the leases in the Thompson Divide. We certainly don't want to have those land in a place where they're not well received, and we wish the receiving communities luck in building consensus around finding a solution that works for them well too. And I think that's possible for them, according to the dialogues I've had. So, again, thank you very much for the commitment of resources and expertise that the county has brought to this, and we're very optimistic that we're going to end up with a very intact Thompson Divide, as we've all envisioned. So thanks.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Ron.
Any other members of the public? Yes, sir.
Chuck Ogilvy, longtime Thompson Divide board member too. I'll just add to the love fest here. I don't know if you know it, but this man, when he is in the room, whether it's a public meeting with a presentation that he's giving, maybe with Peter Hart or Zane or whoever, or with industry or with Forest Service, BLM, whoever it be, he commands respect, he does his homework, he gives a presentation that's flawless, and you're just lucky to have him, and so are we.
Thank you.
Thank you. We agree with that, too. Yeah, Chris, whoa!
We need to stop the comments about Chris because we have just a certain amount of money.
I think it's great.
Yes, sir, in the back.
I'll keep my comments brief. I echo what both Zane and Sloan said about the letter and the importance of working with the affected communities. I'm sorry. Will Roush, Conservation Director at the Wilderness Workshop. So I'm glad to see the emphasis not only in this letter, but in letters from Delta and Gunnison County about the importance of consulting with folks in the receiving counties, and I think in particular the North Fork Valley. And then I, again, would like to thank you all, Chris certainly, but also the Board of County Commissioners. I mean, Chris acts at your direction, and I've been back in DC with George, meeting with folks on this, so I know it's something you have all taken a real personal investment in, and I think not only the folks in the room, but the community really owes you a debt of gratitude for the work you've done. I think it's probably not that common for counties to take on projects of such duration. And this thing's been going on for a while, and it's been clear you were going to stick with it for the long haul. So thank you very much for that.
Thanks, Will.
Any other members of the public wishing to speak? Okay, well, we'll close the public hearing portion of this. George?
I'll make some comments now. I mentioned this at a meeting we had with Senator Gardner a couple of weeks ago. Chris and I attended a roundtable with other county commissioners from the Northwest region, and I said that you know, the saying that politics makes strange bedfellows. The Thompson Divide is a perfect example of that, and it's because of, frankly, the Thompson Divide Coalition. I mean, we've done our work and we've provided staff, and we've said we're going to make the commitment to work on this, but it would not have happened without a coalition that Zane has been leading on, and you've all been involved with the Thompson Divide Coalition. It would not have been possible, because when you talk about strange bedfellows, you would never think about ranchers in alignment with recreationalists or environmentalists necessary with business people, Pickens County with Garfield County. But the work that the Thompson Divide Coalition did was to bring people together from all walks of life, understanding that this one issue impacts and affects our environment, which drives our economy. And so that's something that we all should be very proud of. It's an unusual case. I can't ever recall in my 40 years or so living in this valley that we've had such a unanimous consensus around one single issue. And that has gotten us to this point today. And even though it's beginning, it's a strong beginning. When I think back to the work that we started 6, 7 years ago, and we had who our legislators were at that point, we had finally got Representative Salazar on board to think about drafting some legislation, and then he lost that following election and was replaced by Representative Tipton. We had then Senator Bennett, who came up with a proposal for permanent protection, supported by Senator Udall, which has now been replaced by Senator Gardner. So it's important that we continue to build these relationships with our new congressional delegates, that they understand and continue to see the broad-based support that this issue brings to not only our valley, but as we see all of our adjacent counties feel that this is an opportunity to at least address this one issue, and then hopefully from there it may provide further opportunities for a permanent solution. So I just want to acknowledge and thank all of you and all the community members and all of the elected officials throughout the Roaring Fork Valley and beyond who have come together to support this and protect this unique landscape.
Well stated, George.
Thank you, George. Patty?
I think I'm done. I could applaud Chris again for the many years that we've worked with him on many issues. But as with George, I'm applauding the efforts of the community as a whole. I think all of you and all those that aren't here in the room today have done an amazing job. And we know, Picking County, we know what it takes to get a bill passed through Congress. And if and when we're there, I think we can get that done. That's a very optimistic, positive outlook for all of you.
Well, thank you. And there's consensus on sending this letter?
Definitely. And I think the public should know that we've noted on there that it will be signed by all 5 members of the Board of Commissioners to show our solidarity in this issue.
Great. Well, and I'll thank Chris, but I also thank all the members of the coalition and all the interested public who showed up for multiple meetings. This has been a crusade. It's just the beginning of a crusade. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone, for the kind words.
Team
Team effort.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Thanks. Good job, Chris.
Thank you.
Chris, do they need to take any action on this?
I think a motion to
Is there a motion?
approve the sending.
I'll make a George, you make a
I
motion.
would make a motion to approve this letter to go to our congressional delegates and leave it up to our attorney if he wants to change this one word from interesting to some other adjective.
Innovative.
Innovative. And I will second that motion with pleasure.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Would you like a motion to adjourn the special meeting?
Sure.
I'll make a motion to adjourn the special meeting.
I don't need a motion to begin.
Yeah.
But you have to have a motion to end it. Special meeting, well, we're making one. We're in the
You
motion.
go ahead. Yeah.
I've made it. George just seconded it.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Someone must have read that.
And we've texted Jody, who is the next person, I think,
Actually,
on our...
it's, who's the other gentleman now? That works with Jody, who's our facility? Dave, he's supposed to be coming.
I'm sorry, Dave Detweiler. Do you have Dave's?
I sent them both.
Okay.
I wasn't top trusted.
You guys are being way too efficient today.
Difference between 3
Get
and
used to
5.
it.
It's a difference between...
I know, isn't it amazing? God, no wonder they only have 3 in all those other counties.
Yeah.
Well, we were scheduled for a break. I don't know if you guys want to take a break, and we'll try and get Dave over here.
When is a facilities update scheduled at 2:45? That's quite a ways away, so
Right, yeah.
Dave's probably involved in some way. So let's take a small break.
Well, I was going to suggest if we had any open discussion, get that out of the
I
way.
think we're done.
And then we can adjourn that much earlier.
And the only item I had for you was the facilities update
Oh,
that
okay.
Dave was going to do, yeah.
Okay, so 10 minutes or so,
Yeah.
and we'll check back.
Okay. Ready to roll, exactly.
I can't find Dave.
I tried both his numbers.
We're back with Jody Smith from our facilities management, and she's going to give us an update on our facilities. And so are we going to be talking about the library, or are we going to be talking about new facilities? What are we going to be talking
I
about?
think we're mostly going to focus on the library today.
Okay.
I will give you a brief update that we are still in the process of the new facility. That's pretty.
The new facility being?
The remodel, the complete remodel of the Courthouse Plaza building, and then an expansion of 18,000 square feet for the sheriff and county administration building, which will be attached to the back here, not impeding on the Veterans Park. So that is still in the conceptual idea. We haven't gone to schematic yet. We're still building the ideas. We still have our visioning group. They're heading out on some tours in the very near future, in the next couple of weeks, to go out and look at some of the other facilities that are using different types of concepts, whether they're open concept or workspaces, those kinds of things, to come back with and start working on some design
kind of guidelines. And I'm going to let Jody catch her breath. I can tell she ran over here.
Guidelines.
Yeah.
I could ask a question. And
Go ahead,
either one.
Patty.
You know, and having just had the experience of going before the Glenwood Springs City Council as a private individual, you know, and their dais as the same dais that you have for the electeds at the Garfield County Commissioners. I don't know how the rest of the board feels, and I don't know how many other boards of commissioners are being raised above the public. I'm not really comfortable with that, and I'm hoping that we can have something that's a little more warm and inviting, but efficient and still has, you know, the presence that we're making decisions. So I know we'll probably get down to that discussion later on down the line, but it was an interesting experience.
Well, what I will say is that if you remember, I had the opportunity to come to the board retreat a few months ago, and that was one of the comments. So I took copious notes during that, and we have passed those along to our architects, and our design team will be looking at that as well. So that was one of those that I captured, because I think it was consistent with the rest of the board.
Well, and the other thing that, you know, I know it's nice to be able to manage public comment when it gets to be too much, but the red and the green light system that flashes on and off as you're speaking makes you feel like you're testifying in front of the United States Congress and you're on C-SPAN. It was like, really made you nervous. Are we going to do that? 3 minutes
Sort
with
of couches and popcorn.
yeah, and a coffee table with coffee table magazines
Right,
on it.
magazines.
You got it.
It's just like coming into somebody's living room.
You got it. Mm-hmm.
So, yes, Jody.
George doesn't like that
John,
idea.
do you want to talk a little bit about the tour tomorrow that you guys are giving?
Sure. Just pitch that real quick for members of the public that are interested in hearing more about the plans for remodeling this facility that we're in right now, which is the Courthouse Plaza building at 530 East Main, and putting an addition onto it to accommodate increased needs for public safety in particular, but also some of our administrative functions. We're going to be giving a tour tomorrow. It's going to start at the courthouse steps. It will be a progressive lunch where in order to get the next portion of your lunch, you have to follow us through the maze of county facilities. We will end in the room we're in right now in the Commissioner's hearing room in order to kind of hear a presentation about what's coming next, and we'll also have an exercise to be getting public feedback about our planning going forward. And so that will start at noon tomorrow at the courthouse steps. Sheriff Joe DeSalvo and myself will be leading it, and we'll have several county staff involved in helping with the tour. We will start at noon there. We're shooting for an hour and a half, but we've advertised it from noon to 2. So please join us.
And what's the menu, John? Give me an idea.
You know, I actually, they don't let me plan the menu since I ordered hot dogs for a party, but it is going to be provided by Jour de Fête.
Okay, so it's Jour de Fête, they have an excellent reputation,
Yes.
good food.
It'll be good food, hopefully good company, and hopefully we'll have an opportunity to have a good dialogue with interested citizens about the future of our facilities needs.
Lots and lots of information.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
God, I wish I could attend. It sounds great fun. Progressive lunches sound great. That's a great idea.
George?
Jody, can you give us an update, because I get questioned as I'm coming through town here, the status of all the road work that's happening along Main Street, and as far as the counties involved and concerned, perhaps giving the public an update what's happening and
Yes, I can.
what they may see down the road.
I can give you an update on the status of what's going on Mill and Main Streets. So in front of the courthouse and then down Mill Street. And those are, right now, those are both city projects. However, we're all very much impacted. I know that right now the water line at Galena and Mill Street, or Galena and Main Street, has been completed. They just compacted and they are paving as we speak. So that should be open. I know that. So that was many projects. We had the CDOT installing street posts or street traffic control posts, and then the water department is installing a new water line there, and so that's getting all closed up today. And I would expect that that will be open again. At least the traffic along Main Street. When we go into the Galena Circle, that's still going to remain closed, and should probably be closed until about November, as the city of Aspen continues to work on their pedestrian improvement project that also goes into the Galena Plaza project improvements that are happening there. As far as the Mill Street jog that you have to go through the cone zone there, that is to be paved on Friday, so I expect on Thursday they will be in there prepping that, getting that ready, and then Friday they're supposed to put the asphalt down, and then that will be reopened. Some of the challenges with that is that we still have cranes and other vehicles, steel trucks and pump trucks with concrete coming in that way. So once Galena is open, we'll be able to come in that way and they can have that access to get that paved and closed off. So we're working very closely with the city on that. I actually have a meeting with them in 15 minutes to kind of reconfirm how that's all going and making sure that we're still on schedule, that we're working together on that. So,
Thanks.
Any other questions?
That's a good update.
Okay.
So what's the progress on the library in terms of the roof and all that work?
So the library side of the project is we've got all 9 of our 60-foot beams in to the opening of the parking structure.
We got a both.
Come on up. So we have all the 60-foot beams are in. We're now doing some cross bracing. It's going very well. Our stem walls are being poured for us to start to do the construction upward. Dave Detweiler here is handing out some photographs of that with an update and a time schedule. So for the next 2 weeks, we're going to still have smaller loads of steel coming in along with concrete trucks coming in. But we're moving along. We've got the alleyway reserved for us so that we can continue to make that progress. And then once we get to a point, we'll be turning the alleyway back over to the city. Those dates aren't exactly confirmed yet.
Elevator status. I know Rachel, I'm speaking on Rachel's behalf since she's not here. The status of the parking garage elevator, have you heard anything more? I like taking the steps myself, but.
As of last Tuesday, it still was not fixed. I will find out at 3 o'clock today whether it's up and running or not.
I just know Rachel would ask.
Ours is running.
Ours is running.
And the library, but the library goes to nowhere.
Yes, you're exactly right.
Now it does, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, the other one, they had ordered parts, but it was 2 weeks from
last week.
Yeah, well, I will continue to take the stairs no matter what, because it's good for you.
And so I can flip you guys all an email and let you know that it's open if we get that update, or we'll let you know in 2 weeks when we come back before you.
That should work.
The movers started this morning. We've got a company from Florida that is here doing it. They're very specific to libraries. This is all they do. They were the lowest price. They are rocking this thing. We've already got the library. The children's library is 90% moved over. They're starting to set up.
Wow.
All of the Marmot computer systems are almost set up. The gate people are here getting the new self-checkout and the new gates installed. Those will be up and running by Friday. We're still on schedule to open at 11 o'clock on Friday. And
great.
The first children's program kicks off at noon on Friday. So with that, if there's no weather, we'll go out into the lawn, but otherwise we'll be inside the building and ready. It's going very smoothly, and we have great news as far as the City of Aspen lease with the powerhouse. Of course, we're moving, so that means we've gotten that completed. City's just been really great with giving us that opportunity to use that for the 8 months. And we really are grateful for that, and I think the community is going to be grateful for that as well, for that opportunity to stay open. Otherwise, we would have just been closed.
It's a big thank you that goes out.
Staff, we worked all weekend, they worked all weekend, and they really did a great job of labeling everything separately, what goes to the powerhouse versus what goes into Snowmass. The update on the Snowmass storage area. We've been working closely with Snowmass Acquisitions Company, which is also the Snowmass Hospitality. They were very gracious and gave us a significant storage area. So it's 4,000 square feet approximately. I was just up there, and we're working with them great to figure out where we can go, how we can store, how we can collaborate and work in other ways to make this happen. So a big thank you to them as well for allowing us this opportunity. And I will say that both the City of Aspen for the Powerhouse and the Snowmass Hospitality, neither one of them are charging the library any rent for this.
That's great. We need big thank yous.
We're paying utilities at the Powerhouse, but we would be doing that at the library anyway. So,
great.
Library is closed. The book drop at the library is still active until Friday. Then everything goes down to the book drop or at the Powerhouse.
Great.
Excellent. No wonder you were out of breath when you...
She ran all the way from Snowmass and through the construction site and up the stairs.
Dave, do you want to give any kind of, we already talked a little bit about the sheriff and county admin building. Any of the statistic or anything about recycling and how we're using those materials or getting rid of
did you talk about the double Ts?
No, I didn't.
Oh.
I saved that for you.
So we are in the library project. We're really encouraging, although we're not being LEED certified on that project, we are trying to adopt as many of those principles as we can, and so we're really making strong efforts to recycle as much material as we can. And one of the neat things that FCI was able to do, the double Ts that came out of the garage were ground up into riprap, and they're used as erosion control on one of the rivers here. I don't know which one yet, but I will find out where and exactly how. That it's nice to kind of have a piece of history of that library and garage being put to a good use.
So our library will be going to Lake Powell before we know it?
In 50, 60 years as it wears down. We also have been taking just truckloads of old electronics and whatnot through the recycling program. So we'll have some data when we're done, but we think it'll be a really significant amount of material being recycled. So.
And my staff is really taking the time to work with the landfill staff as far as what do we need to take apart, and put the wood in the right place, and then put the circuit boards where they need to go, and so, spending the time to make sure we're doing that right instead of just dumping into the landfill.
Excellent. Any other questions?
No, I like these updates.
Jody and Dave, are you going to be at the Progressive lunch tour tomorrow?
Yes.
Both of you?
Dave for sure will be, kind of depends on the move and where I need to.
You don't even get lunch?
You have to eat lunch, oh, but you have to watch that foot when you're doing that Progressive lunch.
I anticipate being there unless there's some kind of critical issue that I need to deal with.
And that's at 12 o'clock
Correct.
in front of the courthouse.
That's great. The old courthouse,
The old
courthouse
courthouse.
steps.
The historic courthouse.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Steps.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, that's it.
I got one quick question.
Okay, George.
Not for you perhaps, but for John. The intercept lot, there's a lot of work happening out there.
Source
Is
gas.
that being paved, or what's going on?
That's, no, it's, that's part of the source gas project, is my understanding, that you'll see if you go down there, you'll see the pipes and such being staged.
No, this is just
there.
on the parking area, that sort of the extension of the paved parking area.
I'll have to look at that, I don't know,
Well,
I
I
know
think the
source
gas
gas
line
is.
comes through there and then
Yeah.
goes to the terminal.
Yeah, it comes all the way around to
Looks like
that
they're
hub.
just,
There's a lot of dirt that's being moved right now as part of that source gas project, so I suspect that's it, but I'll see if there's another project going on.
It just looks like they're actually flattening that area out, like they're getting ready to pave it.
I think they're just moving dirt around.
Yeah,
I had somebody else ask me about that too.
no, I think you guys would know about that.
What are we doing now? Great.
Okay, thank you.
Thank
Dave
you.
and Jody.
Thanks. Thanks for coming over, guys. We really appreciate it.
Are there any other items of business that we need to consider this time?
I don't have any other open discussion items for you.
Thanks, Jody and Dave.
So John, you are off for the next 2-3 weeks?
I guess I will, yeah, I'm
We'll
going
see
to
you?
be gone for a good 2.5 week stint, flying out
When
on
you leaving?
Saturday.
Aren't you excited?
Yeah, I'm very excited.
I bet
I
you're
have to
thrilled,
admit.
sir.
I'll miss you guys, don't get me wrong,
But we will still know how to find you, right? We'll know how to find him. We're going to know how to find him.
So we don't have any old business, new business. Let's adjourn this meeting.
And thank you, Mr. Owsley. You did a great job running the meeting.
Thank you.